Hello. So, I would just like to come back and speak about the movie Encanto and the other new Disney movies I've been watching and some thoughts, just a little bit of them. Um, because my friend recently lent me her Disney Plus account, and I was like, "Oh my god, for real?" And she was like, "Yeah, you can use it." So I did, and I have. And let's just say I am getting her money's worth because I've been racking that shit up. But um, the first movie I think I watched on like my first binge was probably Turning Red because I think it was like the week that it dropped and like everybody was talking about it, and like I was with my friends, my friend and her sister, because I only have una friend, and we were watching it, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna lie to you, I think I was kind of high when I was watching it, so I didn't understand what was going on, and I feel like if I was alone, I would have started crying, but like since I wasn't alone and I was blazed as a motherfucker, um, let's just say I didn't really have a lot of understanding of the film, but I haven't watched it since, and I feel kind of naughty for not doing so, but I may like turn back and watch it. But I think one of the things that like stuck out to me the most was how like um well animated it was. Generally, I'm not really a big fan of 3D animation. I find that it doesn't hit the same as 2D, and I still believe in that. Even after watching all of like the newer Disney films, I'm kind of like I kind of wish like I feel like a lot of these could have been so much better if it was just done 2D, but I understand that like 2D takes a lot more time and it's a lot more expensive, a lot more effort. But I think that's what I like about it, cuz it's like you there's a lot of benefit from like 2D, like I don't know how to explain it, but from like an artist's perspective, like I understand as well, like you're working on a time crunch, and like when you have a 3D model, everything's already modeled, all you have to do is just rig it and do whatever the fuck. But with like 2D, it's very tedious, constant framings, shit like that. And I understand all that, but at the same time, I feel like you kind of reap the rewards if you are able to kind of be really meticulous with it. That's just how I feel. I don't know if that's something that people will agree with, but that's just how I feel. But that's not to say that I don't like 3D films. I don't really don't have like a preference, but if I'm watching something that's like animated, I prefer it to be 2D. That's why I watch a lot of anime. But I don't know. My friend theorized that the reason why we just because I told her about like my experiences watching like 3D stuff and how unsettling it is for me because like for me the reason why 3D is just so unsettling, especially in the Disney sphere, is because the proportions of the characters are generally very 2D based. Like they have huge eyes, very like kind of it's kind of like a bobblehead type situation where it's like the head just seems a little bit too big for the body, and the proportions are just kind of like like very like cartoonish, but like the shading, the rendering, and everything in the universe is just super realistic. I think one of the primary examples, like the one that really stood out to me, that depicted this was Moana. Moana literally was beautiful. Like visually, it was gorgeous. But every single time a character would show up, I would literally be so like off put by it. It was so like scary. I don't know what it was. I was watching it, and I was just like I was terrified because like I said, the proportions were so like cartoon like, but like they were rendered so realistically and humanly that I was terrified. Like I was shaking in my fucking boots. I don't think I looked at like the characters for majority of the film. I was like just staring at the water because that's like the only thing I could stomach. And it's kind of like that with Encanto as well, because Encanto has very cartoonish like characters, but like it's rendered so realistically that I was like I was staring at Mirabelle's like collarbones, and them shits were moving, like breathing, like moving up and down. I was like, she can literally bleed. She can literally bleed. If I stab this bitch right now, she can literally bleed. And Lord knows, man, if I did and if I could, I just do it just to see it. But that's just I no. Anyways, back to it. So yeah, Turning Red had very good animations, and it kind of had a little bit of what I was talking about, where it just everything seems so like realistic, but at the same time, I feel like they did like I feel like I don't know if this is a Pixar film. I don't know if it's like a Disney conglomerate thing where it's like Disney and Pixar combined. I don't know, but I think they did a pretty good job balancing like the cartoonish aspects of the film with like some of the more realistic shading. I feel like there was a better balance than like Moana, but yeah. And I as like an Asian American or just an Asian, because I wasn't born here, but I can say I pretty much grew up here. I kind of felt a lot of the themes in the movie. Like even if they didn't cover like like overt like Asian racism, it was just basically just a really good representation of how I feel like the dynamic in that family, like in I don't know the main character's name, I forgot, but like the main character's family, I feel like I related a lot to like the dynamics of all like the the menacing aunts and like the silent dad and the overbearing mother. That's something that I deal with a lot, and it's not like I feel like it isn't as toxic because my mom, she's just kind of, she likes to talk. Like, she's a talker. She fucking, like, she just likes to just talk and hear her own voice and smelling her own farts. But with my dad, he's just kind of quiet, but he just, like, he's still there. He has opinions, obviously, but it's just, like, he's a very quiet dude. But at the end of the day, man, good film. It was a good film. I really liked the animations, and I really liked, like, the fox, the panda thing, the raccoon thing. I don't know what the fuck it is. Red panda. Yeah, I really liked it. That was cute. I thought it was really cute how she was able to like control it and stuff. I also really liked the boy band. I thought the boy band was a very good inclusion because I feel like I was obsessed with boy bands when I was younger, and I was like, yeah, if that was One Direction, I would literally like skip a ritual just to go see them. Like that's just how it is. But I don't know, the supernatural like it kind of took me out when it was like when there was like this big ass fucking red pandas just running across the fucking town, and like nobody just batted an eye. Well, they obviously were like, what the fuck is that thing doing? But like it wasn't like a big deal because like people were just like, oh. And I was like, is this normal for like this universe? Because like it's kind of like, I imagine like if I were ever to see like a person transform into a red panda, I'd either be like, okay, that's a really good fursuit, or I would probably be like, yeah, I need to take a nap, because I don't know how I would react like normally after that. I don't know, but there's that. And yeah, I mean, it's a good film. I feel like I heard more like about the controversies of the film rather than like the actual good things about the film, which is kind of strange because before like it even came out, people were like criticizing it for like for once having like an Asian representative like character, but then they would like people were bitching about how like they would transform into an animal, so you're not really technically getting like an Asian representation, you're just getting the idea of it, but you're actually just seeing like a fucking animal. And I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? Like, are you fucking stupid? No, I feel like that's a little bit too harsh to say, but like it's just like, who gives a fuck, man? Just watch a film, enjoy it, and it's just a kid's film. Like, for me, if I was a kid and I saw this, I'd be so happy to see just, like, anything on screen that even resembled, my life and who I was. Because I think that if this came out when I was a kid, I literally would be so obsessed with it. Like, I would literally, like, I would literally have posters of it, bro. Like, I feel like representation doesn't inherently have to be, like, look at this Asian character and look at how Asian they are. I feel like when it comes to like just representation, it doesn't have to be like in your face, overt, and like just open. It can be subtle, and I feel like that's what some people are not pleased with, not having that subtle Asian or like any representation. I feel like when you do it so overtly and so like, and that's the only thing about that character is like their race and their ethnicity, I feel like that is when it becomes like kind of steering the like kind of crossing the line of like kind of being becoming like a stereotype, you know? Because if all a character is their race. Okay, I'm just gonna say this just as Asians, but like this can go for like Mexican, Black, African American, like whatever the fuck, right? It can literally like be whatever the fuck. But I'm gonna focus mostly on the Asian discourse because that's what I'm most familiar with and what I'm most I feel like confident in speaking it because as an Asian person, I feel like I can probably put more insight into it. But I feel like this can go across all types of like ethnicities, races, and whatever the fucks, right? Even sexual orientation, gender orientation, the fuck, whatever, okay? Like it just can go whatever. Like if a character is portrayed only is like this one primary thing, then I feel like they just get rendered down to a stereotype. They just become what they are born as. I don't know how to explain it. Like it's just if the main character of Turning Red was just known for her being Asian, I feel like that would be a bit questionable. Wouldn't you think? Wouldn't you think? Because I like how nuanced the characters are in that film. I like how the main character isn't just an Asian person, but they still live an Asian lifestyle. I don't know how to explain it, but like there's a lot of things. Like I'm an Asian person first and foremost. Whenever you ask me who I am, like academically on documents, I'm an Asian person. But I'm involved in a very like westernized culture. You know, I live in America, I live in Minnesota, so obviously those things are influence majority of my lifestyle. And this main character in this film, in Turning Red's film, is from Canada. So obviously she's going to experience a lot more Western influences, such as like, you know, the boy bands and like her classmates. But there's still a lot of Asian aspects about her. Like they didn't totally just like wipe away her like ethnicity. Her family still, you know, eats Asian food and she still helps in her family's like business, which is based on like tourism, which is I think that's cool. I think that's cool because when I was like, what the fuck are they doing in a shrine? I'm like, because I was like joking around with my friend because both me and her are Asian. So we were like, I looked at her when they were like showing that shrine scene at the beginning. I looked at her. I'm like, do you have a shrine that big? And she's like, no, the fuck. And I'm like, me neither. Because like our shrines are literally just like a Buddha with like a plate of fruit as like an offering. And sometimes we have like incense. But that's basically all we have for our shrine. So we assume that like she came from a really rich family, and this was their version of like the home shrine. But turns out it's like a heirloom thing, you know. It's like a business thing, not business. I don't want to say, like chalk it up as the business thing, but that's what it essentially is. So we were like, oh my god, okay, because we were like, whoa, they're really going in for that Mulan experience, huh? But no, it's just something they do on the side. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting, and I really liked how they didn't stray away from like the, you know, family, what's it called, like family trauma, generational trauma, because that's something that I feel like is not covered a lot in like just mainstream media, because it's something that is fairly nuanced and complex, and it's not like it's like an only Asian family thing. Like obviously family trauma can come from multiple different races and shit like that. But I think this is probably like one of the first times I've ever seen like mainstream commentary on Asian dynamics. My jaw right now is like hurting so bad and I don't know why. But that's why I'm talking a little funky, because my jaw right now just feels so tense. But yeah. So yeah, that's Turning Red. I liked it. Not many complaints from me. I don't remember if I liked it or hated it. So if I can't remember, then that means I probably liked it to some degree. But I'm pretty sure I was like shitting on it the entire time because I was high. So I'm a lot more critical when I'm high. I don't know why. Like I'm like both like not involved and like heavily involved at the same time. So yeah, Turner Red was pretty good. And then we watched Encanto because I told my friend I hadn't watched it. And she was like, I think you'll like it. So she put it on and I took 2 more hits out of her dab pen and I do not remember much of it. I'll be honest with you. I was watching it and I think the thing that I was paying attention to the most was the animation. And I already kind of discussed what my feelings are towards that, even when I'm like high. soberly, I still feel the same way, but when I was high, it was enhanced. Like I was just, the only thing I could focus on was like how realistic the animation was, and just how like off kilter everything was, and just how freaky deaky it was, man. And I remember the songs being pretty good. And then after watching it, I felt so guilty because I kept on asking my friend what was going on because I was so confused because I missed the intro where they were like, giving exposition into like the like gist of the movie, like how they had powers and shit. So I just kept on asking questions. I was like, so does Mirabelle not have like powers? Like, how come she doesn't have powers? Like, does everybody in this family have powers? Like, how did they get their powers? And it was literally explained at the beginning, but I missed it. So I was so confused throughout the entire movie. My friend was getting pissed off because she was like, Quinn, this is a kid's movie. And like, you are a grown woman and you literally can't understand it. Like, literally, you're so fucking annoying. And I was like, yeah. But then I just kept on asking questions anyways because I didn't know what the fuck was going on. And I was getting invested, man, but I didn't understand it. So I was like, okay, whatever. And then I was like, oh, where's that little rat dude? The fucking... I don't remember his name. Bruno. That Bruno dude. Because I heard some of the sounds on TikTok. So I was like, where does he come in? And then she was just like, Quinn, shut the fuck up. And I was like, okay. And then after that, I felt kind of guilty that I didn't understand the film, and I wanted to give it a second chance. So I watched it at home, sober, and it made a lot more sense. I'm gonna tell you that right now. It made a lot more sense, and I liked it a lot more the second time through. Although that grandma, bro, she a bitch. I remember that bitch, and she was a bitch, and I did not like her one bit. But you know what? I don't know. I feel like Disney nowadays always has to like give their villain like a... I like it when villains are villains, I like it when they're like devilishly evil. I like it when all they can do is just be a villain. I like that's like their primary trait. Like when you pull up, they're a villain, and they're not sorry about it. They're just a villain. But I feel like with like the newer Disney villains, there's so much nuance to them, and like I'm not gonna bitch about that because I mean that's how it is in real life. Not everybody's like good or evil. But like when I'm watching a Disney movie, I want the MF to be evil. I want that bitch to be so fucking villainous that I'm like, God damn, that bitch is going to hell. But no, we don't get that nowadays. Which I'm like, whatever the fuck. But yeah, grandma, she the one critique I have about the film, and the only critique I can really kind of think of, is that like the person who did the voice for the really buff sister sucks butt, bro. Like that person, whoever the fuck voiced her, sucks fucking butt. Like I feel like I don't know if the voice actress or the voice actor or whoever the fuck did her genuinely sounds like that, but it sounds like they like had to force their voice into that pitch, and it just sounded so fake and so like just it took me out of the movie because everybody else in that movie did such a good job voicing their characters and did such a good job bringing their characters to life. But with this one character, like they did her so dirty, bro. Like her song was a banger. Like obviously you can tell that they probably chose the voice actor for their singing properly, and then they just had to do the side job of voice acting. But I feel like they should have gone for the voice actor and then like did the song. Because like I don't know if like I didn't do any research. I don't know if that's actually how it is, but that's how that's how it like appeared to me. And I'm just like the both times I listened, the first I'm like stammering because I'm like it was so bad that it's like it's taking me out again. But like the both times I watched the film, that was the primary criticism that came out of it. Like both times I was like, yeah, this sucks. Like just this section, because it was like that section where like the older sister, I can't remember her name. I'll be honest with you. I can't remember her name, but just the buff sister. She was like talking to Mirabelle about like Bruno and shit like that with the donkeys and shit. And like I just remember listening to it, and it was just like I've heard like better like YouTube voice acting than this. I've heard better TikTok voice acting than this. And that's not saying a lot because the people that are on there, they're just doing like, you know what? I've heard better Simulate voice acting than this. You know that one fucking like singing app? I've heard better voice acting on that app than on this lady, okay? And I'm not saying this to be like be like, oh my gosh, like she sucks, like she's literally like the worst character. Like, no, I love her character. I think that like I understand, like she's a very empathetic character, and I found her very funny. But I'm not really, I don't know. I kind of have an issue with her just being like a strong, dumb, emotional character, because it's obvious that she's a very smart character, but just the way she's portrayed as like this like buffling idiot, it's kind of, I don't know. Just something about it ain't right to me. I feel like they could have given her as much nuance as she did with like as like the other characters, but like from what I understood, like she just came out as like a very kind of like buffling idiot. That's all I can think of in terms of that character. And I don't know. I have a lot of bones to pick, because I'm like, just because someone's inherently like meaty and like strong, I don't know why the word meaty came out first. Just because someone's like super buff and super strong inherently does not mean that they have to be dumb. Because like when I think of like a dumb strong character, I think of Kronk from Emperor's New Groove. And the thing is, like, he's not like, that's not the only thing that he's a dumb character, but he's also very strong. My jaw right now is like hurting so bad.